Hello, go after my friends, and welcome to Sports Mall this evening, Wednesday. Fine, outstanding Wootens Day here in Alaska. A beautiful day outside, so seeing the sunshine and loving every minute of it. Before I get started today, I want to call out firstly, all of the platforms that carry Sports Mall, YouTube, Facebook, TikTok. For those of you on Facebook, you probably note that the live chat is available for you. For those of you who ask questions, want to know the answers, by all means, throw it in the chat and let's talk about it. Open it up for discussion. Nextly, I want to call out New Reality TV, where we are simulcast on New Reality TV on live distribution there. So I really want to say thank you to all of the master gurus that make this all work. I'm just so proud to be a part of a wonderful group of individuals that cast a plethora, a mosaic of perspectives that will hopefully help you find something that resonates with you, that can help you obtain or maintain your mental space. Finally, before we get started tonight, I want to give another always the ask. For those of you who happen to have a few extra coins jingling around in the old pocket, want to do something constructive with it, drop it in the tip jar. And I will be sure to use it to help us put out this message even further, get it out there, and so that people can find mental health. That's really what it's all about, is hopefully helping as many people as we can find this spiritual connection, the spiritual energy connection that allows them to clear their space, get that mind freed up so that they can find peace and comfort. And that's really the answer. Today we're talking about a subject near and dear to my heart. For those of you who have been following the morning show, you know that we're observing the MMIW or MMIR Awareness Week, and this is the missing and murdered indigenous relatives or women. And we're kind of representing them, hopefully in a good way. But today I want to talk about superiority thinking. And this is really, in my opinion, based on a multitude of people that I've worked with over the years and spoken with. It's really that. I think, my mentality is that I'm better, or I'm stronger, or I'm, something than you, right? And so I have to enforce, or I feel, or that individual, I shouldn't say I do, because I don't feel this way, but they feel like they have to control, manipulate, and manage, and browbeat everyone around them into this understanding that they are all of that. This is really where bullies have come from. This is really where a lot of the aggressive type of behaviors really come from. It's where it stems from. So thinking about it all the way back in history, back all the way up. I mean, we're talking 154,000 years ago when the bipedal humans were migrating out of Africa and across the continent in a plethora of directions. We really see a more of a instinctual type of behavior where one individual may kind of pounce on another to take away their tribe, to take away their group, particularly of a larger group, in kind of I'm in charge, me in charge kind of thing. And so we see where that thinking, that mentality, more animalistic in nature, kind of migrates and evolves, or devolves, whichever way you want to go there, into what we know as superiority thinking today. So we can get to a place where, if you take a minute and just think about hunter-gatherers, 50, 60,000 years ago, depending on where you are in the world, these hunter-gatherers they had to work as a team, right? And granted, they were still avoiding this this predator out there, right? But they worked as a team, and they were solid. And everyone pulled their weight. Everyone did what was necessary to make the clan successful. As we see the evolution out of the hunter-gatherers into the agriculturalists, roughly around 10 to 10,500 years BCE, we really begin to see the idle minds kind of thing. So sitting around the fireplace, not doing anything, time to go whoop up on a neighbor somewhere, right? And take his lands and take his stuff, because why not? So we see this mentality kind of sprinkled through history, and what we failed to really embrace about the cycle of life when we talk about nature, when we're out in nature and we say, well, the bears, they pick on everybody. No, they don't. They complete the cycle, right? So the bear eats the rabbit. I'm just using terms, right? So don't panic. And then the bear deposits the stuff necessary for the forests and the lands to grow. So there's a cycle. And, the rabbit was ready to go. Everything was set. And this cycle, this natural cycle of life is normal, is how it's supposed to be. There's a balance that's obtained, right? And even science has shown this when we talk about reintroducing animals to certain areas. I remember a study not that long ago when they were talking about reintroducing wolves. And I couldn't tell you where the area is right now because I'm old. I forget my name sometimes. But they reintroduced the wolves, and it literally, with the wolves attacking the deer in the area, and all of those things kind of come, they changed the course of a river. Right? The cycle was now in place. Right? And so that part of me being aggressive or hunting and doing the hunting thing to feed my family, to so on and so forth, complete this cycle. We lost that about the time that we became agriculturalists. Agriculturalists were really into feeding themselves, slaughtering the herds, right? And this kind of came to bear this idea, which would later be memorialized in monotheism, about the humans being the caregivers of the animals, of our other inhabitants here on Midgard with us. Now, I don't know where you're from, but I can tell you, in my world, we're no more better keepers of them than we are ourselves. We're horrible. So we failed at that job. And there are people out there, don't get me wrong, there are people out here in the world who are standing on their heads to make better choices with regards to our stewardship. But nonetheless, we really had no right to be superior to the animals. We should have fit in that cycle, right? We should be in that cycle just like everything else. For those of you who are fortunate enough to ever visit the Arctic Circle, much further north than the Arctic Circle, but get to be in the Arctic. I had the honor and blessing to be in Dead Horse, in Prudhoe Bay, and in those areas you get to meet, you see from a distance, if you're smart, you get to see the polar bear, the Nanook. And what a beautiful creature. What a beautiful creature. And the first thing they tell you in a safety briefing, if you ever go up there, the first thing they should tell you, if they don't tell you, I could tell you now, is they're the only animals that hunt humans. They hunt you in return, so go prepared. But they're beautiful animals. and the cycle completes. Now, in their case, as you know, they're not mammals; they're actually sea mammals, and so they're considered more sea animal than they are actually a land mammal. Huge feat, by the way. But anyway, alas, I am getting distracted. One of the big things that the more I hear and the more I speak with and the more I hear about the tragedies involved in the MMIW, the more I'm convinced that there is methods that we can employ to corral or change colonial thinking. And this is really what it is colonial thinking. Before colonial thinking really came to particularly the Americas, but almost anywhere, pick a place, the peoples, they worked in conjunction with the land. They were more attuned to what was going on. They were in tune with the seasons. They knew what the land could yield. They knew the animals that needed, that would be around, and what animals they needed to harvest for themselves to eat. So they had a whole lot of more connection to the land. And so the more we got into agriculture as a species, the more we kind of lost that connection to the lands. And so as I see things happening, particularly here in the United States, is this colonial type of thinking. And the colonial thinking is everywhere. It permeates social media, it permeates the news, it's in all the advertisements, it's even in books written. It's a colonial way of thinking. And what it essentially says at its core is the only way that we have any value, self, is to be better than someone else. Is to find someone out there who has something less than you do. Whether it be less physical strength, less mental capacity, less whatever, less body weight, for crying out loud, or more body weight, whatever the case may be. We always had to find a way of making sure this bar was level up here, right? And so I think, and I feel in my heart, based again on the conversations I've had and the conversations I've heard, is the perpetrators involved in MMIW are typically in that frame of mind. They're more of a superiority thinking. They're not in balance with themselves. Most often than not, they're not within their authentic selves. And most dangerously is that their well of the self is pitch, right? They can't even imagine what the beautiful mosaic at the bottom of their well looks like. Why? Because they have just polluted it with ridiculousness and gross misobservation and misunderstandings. So a lot of these are cases like that. Now, in some cases that I know I've worked with, I see a generational thing where there's generational hate. Hey, my great-grandfather fought in this war, and this war, these peoples were against them, and they slaughtered them all, and so I don't like any of those people. Well, you didn't fight them. You have nothing in this. And your grandfather may tell you, as I'm sure, he didn't even want to do it. The government, in its colonial thinking, dictated that they would. Now, I see a lot of documentaries. For those of you who know me, I'm a huge documentary fan. I very much love facts and stats and science. I need to connect things to a physical realm. And so I've seen a lot of this stuff, and I've spoken with, thank you all, for all of the peoples who have spoken to me about this and enlightened me as to all the struggles, incredibly painful, incredibly sorrowful. I oof, it's brutal. I can definitely see the traumatic effect on our psychology when we're caught up in that kind of environment. So we essentially have these two schools of thought when it comes to the perpetrators of these types of issues. And I think it stems back to any kind of issues for that matter. This one just has gone unreported for so long, and I'm honored to see, and I have so much hope. They are some wonderful people who are now involved in this and really getting the numbers, helping us to tell a story and to get these things, these policies, these laws, these actions in place to actually provide a wall of safety. It's amazing. I'm just overwhelmed. These two individuals, these two groups of individuals I've mentioned, in my experience, as you know, I work with quite frequently men and women who are returning from conflict or are suffering some serious psychological trauma that they've experienced in their lives. And so we have this very stepped process that we kind of go through, and we can kind of begin to train the mind to, kind of go the other way. And this is the same kind of training I would love to see happen towards some of these perpetrators, is begin to shift their mind, train their brain, shift it. One of the things that I am most honored by in my own personal life is, as you all know, about I guess it's been about decade and a half now, where I really came to know my ancestry, my Norse and certainly the Celtic history. That is my family, is my ancestry. And as I learned, I just absorbed anything I could find about real life, real world Norse, and real world, real life Celtic life, outside of the textbooks that we always read about, and certainly throughout the span of time that it's acquired, or that it's occurred. I really felt a sense of pride in who I was. I'm not fancy. I'm not, well, a very, very distant relative to the nobility there in the United Kingdom. Very distant. Woo, way over there. So I'm no nobility in Ireland, no nobility in Denmark, which is where my family primarily is from, is Bjergby. They're on the Jutland. But I really started to absorb a lot of pride in that. I was a Dane, and then I was an Irish Dane, and there's a huge history, and of course I would discover really the history afterwards, but nonetheless it began to swell in me, this pride of who I was and my identity, and not surrendering that again ever, for anyone, for any reason, holding that line. I started thinking about that, and it dawned on me that many of these individuals, particularly in cases like this, we've really lost the connection to our culture, to whatever we can derive pride from, whatever that is, whether that be the Celtic or Egyptian or indigenous, the Dene people, whomever, Aztec. I mean, beautiful, wonderful, awesome, fantastic cultures that have existed throughout time, that at some point you connected to. And so how do you feel about that? But as we begin to connect to any type of ancestry and cultural heritage that we may have, we're going to experience this level of pride. We're going to start building that up, that pride. And from there, we can really begin to establish a better mental space, because we're able to address many things. Because honestly, one of the greatest gifts that I know for me personally happened when I found my heritage and I began to really drill down into the culture and began to adopt a lot of the culture. What I found was this level of authenticity that occurred within me. I am what I am, an Irish Dane, and I'm proud of that, and I'm proud of my family. Has my family made mistakes? Have they made bad decisions? Oh, I'm sure. I mean, I don't know. I don't see our name at the top of any major things, but who knows? But that's not the point. The point is as I discovered more and more about my culture and about my heritage, I began to build this pride. And what dawned on me, that may be what others need too. These men and women whom have kind of lost their way, have kind of stopped following their love, their passions, their ancestors. And when we separate those paths and we say, nope, I don't need you anymore, we're going to find a lot of things kind of start falling apart. One of the things is that we're going to adopt this colonial thinking. And it happens. It happens regardless whether we want it to or not. Oh, I'm going to be such a good person. Promise. I just don't need spiritual picture. Yeah, that doesn't work. All right. When you come away from spirituality, when you lose your connection to nature, to the spirits, to the ancestors, when you lose that, you begin the process of colonialization, of coming to this thinking of superiority. Happens. And so maybe what we need, and this is my suggestion to all of those of you, thank you so much for letting me attend the events this week. I have been overwhelmed with honor and pride just being part of it. But I really suspect that one of the things that we really need to do and to help kind of stall this type of behavior is bring culture back. And I'm really seeing, in all of my friends and all of my interactivity with the internet, I'm always seeing just everywhere the indigenous cultures of the world really coming together and showing off their beautiful colors and their beautiful lifestyles and their beautiful works, and really expressing those virtues that are associated with the indigenous lifestyle, with the indigenous belief system. So I'm really seeing a resurgence in that almost everywhere, and it's a beautiful thing. But ultimately, what we need to do is help those individuals get back to nature, get back to spirituality, get back to our ancestors. And there you'll find peace, authenticity, love, harmony, and all of the things that really make a society work in the best way possible. So I'm not going to give myself a shirt this weekend, although I do appreciate all of you who have asked questions, and I do look forward to seeing more of your questions and your comments and your concerns. By all means, hit me up in wherever it is, the chat. Hit me up in all of our social media, Facebook, Instagram, all of them. I think we're on everything. So hit us up. Let us know what you're thinking. What are your thoughts about how we can reclaim that cultural identity that we so, I think, desperately need in these modern times? So let me know. All right. In the meantime, I will see you again bright and early tomorrow morning, where we'll celebrate the strength of Thor, because of course it being Thor's Day. And so we'll celebrate not only the physical strength, but the mental strength as well. Remember, Thor had both. He was the full deal, man. He was awesome. And he started his life started being recognized. We know from the writings and whatnot, he actually came to the surface back in the Germanic tribes, back when the Danes were still a Germanic people. And so that really is a boon. But again, it's embracing that culture, embracing everything about it, really enveloping ourselves in that wonderful, beautiful heritage that we all call ours, whatever that may be, whatever that looks like. And just know that war is never the answer. Violence isn't the answer. Trust me, I've been there, done that, got the t-shirt. Matter of fact, got a bunch of t-shirts. But nonetheless, it's not the answer. The answer is harmony, it's peace, it's love, it's generosity, it's sharing. So think of those things. And let's get together tomorrow morning. Remember, 7 a.m. Alaska time, right here on YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, and of course, that way, New Reality TV. We'll see you bright and early in the morning. Love and light, my friends.